Hello and welcome. My name is Stacie Ivey, and in today's video, I would like to communicate a really important subject, which is how to communicate with an overwhelmed child. So, the first thing to understand is when a child is in overwhelm, it is really difficult to talk to them. It is really difficult to communicate with them verbally. So what you mostly need to do, the number one primary thing that you need to do is make sure that they are safe, that they aren't going to hurt themselves or others, and that you are there for them, staying present, staying centered within yourself. The number one thing that you can do when a child is overwhelmed is to remain centered yourself, because you teach primarily through your presence. So when you can stay present and centered and grounded within your own body, within your own breath, then that automatically can help that child come back to their own center. So that's number one. Number two is providing a safe environment to allow that child to feel and experience whatever is coming out in a way where they can do whatever they need to do so that they don't hurt themselves or others, but they have the freedom of expression. Now, prior to moments of extreme overwhelm, the most important thing that you can do is prepare them for moments of overwhelm. So the way that you would prepare a child for moments of overwhelm before the actual overwhelm comes is to talk to them about their brain and their body and stress and overwhelm and help them understand how it all works in a child-friendly way. So depending on the age of your child, and you'll know how to communicate to them based on what I explain next in the way that you think is most age appropriate for that child. Okay. So one of the things that I find really helpful for children is for them to understand how their brains work. Okay. So the first thing that I really find helpful is to teach them that we have primarily two different parts of our brain that are important to understand. One is this back primal first part of our brains that were developed. Okay. That is where we hold the survival instinct. That is where we can go easily into overwhelm. And the three things that happen when we go into overwhelm is we are in either fight, flight, or freeze. So I often teach children that you have these two amygdala, which are the size of almonds. So a regular raw almond is the size of an amygdala, your amygdala in your brain, which is in your temporal lobe. And you can imagine that it is basically where your ears meet your eyes in the center of your brain in both hemispheres, in both your left and your right hemisphere. The amygdala is responsible for keeping you safe. And I would tell children this, that when you feel stressed or overwhelmed, the amygdala activates and it releases cortisol into your body in order to get you into a safe place. Okay, so the problem though is that when we get into overwhelm and it becomes unmanageable and it's really not as severe like being chased by a lion or a tiger or a bear or having some really severe issue in front, the brain still responds that way. So it's teaching children that this is just part of the chemical reaction, part of what your body does. Okay. Depending again on the age, you can teach them that they have a nervous system and they have a sympathetic and a parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic is your calm part of your nervous system. The parasympathetic is the calm side. The sympathetic is the more stressed side. Okay. Your body always wants to come back to calm. So we want to come into states of how do we return to more balance, more calm down the sympathetic nervous system and enter the realm of the parasympathetic. Okay, so going back to the brain, when the brain is active and cortisol is being flooded into the body, it is impossible to make a rational, wise decision because you're in the state of fight, flight, and freeze. And with children, one of the things that really helps them understand this inner state, because it is an inner emotion that they're feeling in their body, is to maybe correlate it with nature. So you can say, what does it feel like that you're going through when you're feeling stressed? Does it feel like fire, a volcano erupting? Does it feel like a tornado? Does it feel like a hurricane? Maybe watch videos on the internet and just explore, like, what do those look like in nature? And then, help the child correlate that to how their inner state might feel in those moments. Okay, so when we're in that moment of fight, flight, and freeze, and when we're in that place of overwhelm, it's only this primal part of the brain that's working. So you can teach the child that in order to make a wise decision, so moving from this part of the brain, which is more like the security guard, the inner security guard, and moving to the frontal lobe, which is your wiser aspect. Sort of like a wise owl or a Yoda type figure. You can always use superhero analogies as a good one that kids relate to. So in order to move from the inner security guard to the inner Yoda, you have to be able to be calm. So one that is teaching a child, take deep breaths. Maybe to take some time to go outside and take a little walk in nature, be in the sun, be around trees, go to the park, just walk around a little bit and let off the steam. It's really important, like I said, at first when they're really overwhelmed, to give them the presence and the space so that they don't hurt themselves or others, and that you're with them and that you love them and that they know that they are okay. Everything can be okay as long as you can stay calm within yourself. And then allowing for those moments when they're not in that severe, extreme overwhelm to provide teaching opportunities. So once you can have more opportunities for teaching, another thing that you can do is allow them to express what overwhelm feels like. They can maybe draw a picture of what it feels like. Use color as a way to express emotions. So a lot of times red can be a color for anger, or blue can be a color for calm, or pink can be a color for love. Yellow can sometimes be a color for overwhelm. Gray can be a color that could represent maybe neutrality or blah or icky. Give them some vocabulary and help them build their vocabulary, but allow them to choose the color that best fits the emotion that they want to express. Again, depending on the age of the child, it can be helpful to talk, but sometimes talking doesn't work, so it can be helpful to express in other ways, such as art or color, or even physical activities. Whatever the child likes to do. Let's say they want to create something, or they like more physical exercise. Find opportunities to give them the space to express those ways that they need to express in their body, recognizing that in teaching emotional intelligence, you allow the child to be fully human, to know that no matter what the emotion is that the child is feeling, it's part of the human condition. It is normal to feel the range of emotions. Just like the spectrum of color, emotions are the same way. It's like a range of emotions, a range of colors, and all of them are okay. It's all normal and natural to feel all of the different ways because it's part of being human. The key is to be safe and to not hurt self or others. Another thing that's really important when you're talking to a child about overwhelm is to really be maintaining eye contact with them. and really think of yourself as connecting with them heart to heart. So that, and get down to their level, depending on what height they are. Lower your body, either kneel down, sit down, squat down, and look at them in the eye and be at their level and help them know that you are present with them, that all is well. You're not judging them for feeling and anything that they're feeling, but allowing them to have opportunities to move through those emotions, move through that overwhelm, knowing that when the child is given the opportunity to be with whatever it is that's rising to the surface, and they can learn how to take deep breaths, they can learn how to take some space and go for a little walk and be in the place where they can start to learn to build that muscle of presence within themselves, the better they're able to navigate anything that comes up in the future. Okay, so I'm going to just do a little review because I see a few more people coming on live. And if you would like, just say hi if you're on live with me right now. But basically, the way to communicate with a child when they're feeling overwhelmed is to recognize, one, you're not going to get very far with just verbal communication in an extreme state of overwhelm, because that's when the primal brain is active. Fight, flight, and freeze are the only modus apparatus, I think is the term, and the child is in a state where they're in a survival-based state. So communicating verbally is not going to get very far in that state. So in that state, you stay present and you make sure that they are safe so that they're not hurting themselves and others. And then beyond that, when they are less overwhelmed and you have time to communicate with them, that's when you can teach them about how their brain works. That's when you can teach them about understanding that their emotions can be like the tornadoes or hurricanes or volcanoes erupting in nature. You know, that's something that children relate to. Help them understand how to take deep breaths. I always teach children, sit in your chair, place both feet flat on the floor, place your hands on your belly, or just place your hands on top of your quadriceps, palms facing down, and just breathe. Take deep breaths, feeling your belly rise on the inhale and fall on the exhale. And allow them to use their imagination to really direct that breath deeper into their belly, even all the way down into their feet and toes, and help them know that it is safe to be in their body. It is safe to express and feel every human emotion that rises to the surface, but that it doesn't have to be so overwhelming when they learn that they're not being judged for having this emotion. It's okay. It's part of being a child. It's part of being a human being. And then when they're calm, they can journal, they can do art, they can express in whatever way they feel is a good way to, share what is on their heart. If the child says, I'm feeling overwhelmed and it feels like a tornado, then you can have them draw, okay, show me what a tornado looks like. Go ahead and draw that. What colors would you put in the tornado? What would that look like? What kind of things would be flying around in the tornado? A really good way to communicate with children and to allow them to process overwhelm is to ask them questions and allow them to process in their own time. So the key is to remember it's always an opportunity to take the eagle eye view, because when we're the squirrel caught in the tree in the middle of the forest, we feel like we don't have control over our own reality, right? So a child feels that way. But if a child can take more of the eagle perspective and learn some simple tools, you could call it a mindfulness toolbox or whatever you want to call it. But I call it or an emotional toolbox. You're teaching emotional intelligence You're helping the child understand emotions are part of the human condition, and you're being present and understanding and non-judgmental with that child at all times. And then if you have any other things that you'd like me to go deeper into, I think that this is an important topic and there's so much to share, but I just thought that this would be a really good introduction and just something I felt guided to share with you guys right now at this time. Because there's a lot of uncertainty in the world and it can feel very overwhelming when circumstances are out of our control. And there's a lot of things that feel out of control right now. So the key is you stay present as the parent, guardian, or adult in that child's life. You stay centered within yourself, connected to your breath. Do your self-care practices so that when your child needs you, you are better able to be with them and help them navigate and express and reflect upon whatever it is that comes up for them. All right. I think that's all I have for right now. Feel free to comment anything, any questions, any further expansion you would like on this topic. And I hope you're having a beautiful day and be well. Signing off for now and sending so much love.